It seems a long time since we started this meeting, but we've only got as far as mayor's announcements. A couple of things to highlight. The Poppy Appeal presentation evening in Wokingham Town Hall I was privileged to go to, and I think I mentioned before I picked up an award for the Wokingham Borough Council for the Poppy Appeal. The past mayor's gathering for the 10th anniversary was very pleasant. Thank you, Angus, for organising that. High Sheriff Mock Trials was a very interesting day. Everyone thought that people were going to be found innocent, but knowing my background, we're all guilty. It's proven is the problem. They weren't found guilty, but some of the presentations by some of the children, there's some aspiring barristers there, I can tell you. Disability Sports Taster Day at London Valley Leisure Centre, absolutely fantastic. I was very privileged to have my son there taking part, and Stuart took these a couple of photographs, so I'll be passing those on to him. The rest of the event, my small colleague here, who's had a wonderful time himself, and he wants a week off now.
I'm going to speak now. Why not?
Right, appointment of independent review panel members. The answer to that, Rob, has been done all night.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the interest of time, I'm not going to say anything about it. It's a formal thing we have to do, setting up the independent review panel, and would like to propose the recommendation in page 6. Thank you.
Second, does you wish to speak now, do anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Ferris.
Sorry, we get a bit of disagreement now. We shall be voting against this proposal, not because it has anything to do with the integrity or quality of the 3 residents being proposed, because we feel to have only 3 members of the IRP is not the way to go. It would be difficult to arrange future IRP meetings with only 3 members. It only requires one to be unavailable to make their meetings non-viable. We believe there needs to be at least 5 members of the IRP panel, with a minimum of 3 members present to ensure the session's meetings are quorate. Thank you.
Julian, just wish to speak? Okay, we get straight to the vote then. Do you wish to reply to it?
Only refer Councillor Ferris to page 35, item 7. The rationale for the 3 members there is that the Constitutional Review Working Group is going to be reviewing all our input. That does not preclude later on to the 5. That's that.
Thank you. I'm very aware of page 35.
Okay, can we go to the vote, please? All those in favour of the proposal? Those against, as previously stated? Any abstentions? Thank you. Proposal carried. Annual report from the Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee, proposed by Councillor Weeks. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor. I shall keep this very brief as we have a lot of other business. Tonight I'm pleased to present the Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee report and the reports of the 3 Overview and Scrutiny Committees in this detailed annual report that runs to some 30 pages. There's a lot of detail for anybody who would like to read that. But a couple of things I would like to draw Council's attention to is the fact that there is a move now within Overview and Scrutiny to have a greater involvement in shaping and challenging policy development. So that as a matter of course, we're not looking at what has happened and suggesting how it could be done better, but we try and have some involvement in how it's done and get it better and right the first time. Also, the other significant factor that we have coming up is that there's a parliamentary select committee that recently been set up last month to have a major review of overview and scrutiny in local government, and we believe that the findings of that will have some fairly controversial issues in them because overview and scrutiny is not deemed to work particularly well as a way of looking at the powers of the executive. And this is a thing that seems to come out from a number of local
we have a seconder? Councillor
Mayor,
Forrest.
I'd like to second Councillor Weeks' words. He says the document's 30 pages long. I recommend this document to the council. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Forrest.
Whilst we have no particular problems with the annual report, we believe it's inappropriate for council to vote on the report before it has been put to the ONSM committee themselves. This will not happen until next Tuesday. We are therefore putting the cart before the horse. Once the report has been passed to full council, how can the OSM change it should they wish to do so? This we feel is inconstitutional. So therefore the Lib Dem Group reserves the right to suggest modification of the report at the next OSM meeting should we feel the need to do so.
Thank you. Do you want to reply to that, Councillor Weeks?
I'm perfectly happy to accept Councillor Ferris's proposal that we can consider this in some detail at the next meeting if we feel there are fundamental matters that we are comfortable with.
Okay, I invite members to note the report. Audit Committee Annual Report, Councillor Lee. Oh, sorry, could we vote to note the report, my error. Can I have those who wish to note the report, please? Those who don't wish to note the report. So noted. Audit Committee Annual Report, Councillor Lee.
I would like to propose that we receive a report of the Audit Committee.
Do we have a seconder? Do you wish to speak now? No? Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Bray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I only joined this committee part way through the year. I'm enjoying it, and there's nothing I particularly want to disagree with in the report. However, I don't recall seeing a draft of the report before it appeared in the agenda, so I don't believe it's been passed the Audit Committee. So after David's excellent speech on the petition debate, I don't want to have a go at him, but I do think it is normally customary for at least the report to be circulated by email beforehand for people to comment. And I would ask that maybe in future years we are definitely more included. If you did send such an email, I didn't receive it.
Councillor Lee, do you wish to reply, please?
Only to apologise profusely to Councillor Bray for that, for me overlooking that, and I assure her it will not happen again.
Thank you. Councillor Yorkes, do you wish to say? We have to vote to note again. Can I have all those who wish to note it, please? Thank you. All those who don't wish to note it and wish to abstain from voting it. Thank you. It's so noted. Standards Committee Annual Report. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. May I draw your attention to pages 72 to 76, and in particular to the introduction letter on page 72. The Standards Committee has had quite a busy year, and it's not been from complaints from employee public, it's actually been from complaints by members of our members. It's been slightly higher than usual. I want to stress that many of these complaints could have been avoided if members had taken advice of the problem monitoring officer before proceeding on specific items. Please can I ask that all members read the Code of Conduct and attend the training? That's most important, especially when changes have been made to the Code of Conduct. There's some conduct. So, I'd like to give my thanks to the officers who have supported the committee. They've done an excellent job. And also my thanks go out to the co-opted independent persons that have given their time when called on. What it brings is my closing note is to say, please, for the coming year, can we all try and be a bit more considerate and understanding of each other. And I recommend the report be noted.
Do you have a second? Anybody going to second this?
I am waiting. No, I'm waiting.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Rowland.
I would like to
speak, Chairman, just to say that the Standards Committee did see a copy of this report before the meeting, and we approved it.
Councillor Martin, do you wish to say anything?
Thank you very much.
We're going to vote to note again, so anybody wishing to vote to note the report, please show. Any of those who don't wish to note the report, please show. Anyone abstaining?
Abstaining.
I was confused there because you voted both ways.
Confused me.
Not done,
Let's abstain.
Reports noted.
That was a 4.
So noted. Reports from members appointed to outside bodies. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I draw your attention to pages 77 to 130, some extensive reports from quite a few outside bodies. Don't intend to say anything more on that.
Do you have a second, Deborah? You wish to say anything? Anyone else wish to speak? Okay. Can we vote to note the report, please? Excellent. Anyone against? Anyone abstaining? Anyone still on it? No. Thank you. The report is so noted. That covered code of conduct complaints. No discussion will be held on this. Ken Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to just recommend that as it's listed in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a seconder? We have a seconder?
I'm still over here.
Kids sit over there. Okay.
Can I confirm you're saying that we're not allowed to speak on it? Because
Yes.
we'd like to.
No discussion, I'm afraid. Right, statements by the lead executive members. Shall we do it? Yeah. Just over there. Statements by the lead executive members and deputy executive members.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have been voting on noting, so we're not voting on noting this one.
No, we don't know.
Okay, fine. I want to report good progress on the 21st Century Council restructuring, which is on schedule and on budget. I'm proud to be the leader of this council during these exciting times. Continuity of leadership is essential for the duration of this project, and I fully intend, subject to this council's approval, to provide that continuity. Tonight I want to give everyone a preview of some changes I'll be making to the executive at the annual full council in May. When I was elected as leader some 3 years ago, I embarked on a regular review of executive roles, looking at whether they were still relevant or needed reshaping or even removed. The consequence is that over the last 3 years I've refined the executive and other paid roles, which has made a savings of 14%. That's £24,250. As we move forward to the completion of the 21st Century Council, this review has become even more relevant so that the administration can do their bit alongside this restructuring. All the current executive portfolios are large with the exception of one, resident services. The intention is to reallocate all the components of the resident services portfolio across other executive portfolios. For example, personnel will come to me as leader to mirror the fact that Andy Coldreck is effectively the officer lead on that. Procurement will go to the executive member for finance, and so on. I will provide more details at the annual full council. This allows me to remove this executive role, which will provide additional savings of £12,000. This will increase the total savings to £35,000, or 21%. I'm currently discussing with Councillor Pauline Wilkinson options for the future. Please rest assured my executive will not be losing her exceptional talent. Now can I turn to the multiple special responsibility allowance issue? Can I remind Council that when I spoke in the Independent Remuneration Panel's debate last year, I clearly stated that I wanted to move to a position where no councillor received more than one special responsibility allowance, or SRA. At the time, only 4 councillors received more than one SRA. At the annual full council, when the appointments are voted on, I can guarantee that not a single Conservative appointment which is approved will receive more than a single SRA. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor McGeeson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As members will recall, we very reluctantly agreed to issue a judicial review along with our colleagues in West Berkshire against the Department of Health for the failure to provide additional funding, we're getting a theme here, for the new responsibilities we had to take on for our residents. Although we had a good response initially from the Department of Health and subsequently withdrew the judicial review so that further consideration could be given to our arguments, little has progressed since. Wokingham Borough Council along with West Berkshire have now agreed with the Department of Health to keep a watching brief on the impact of the criteria changes. The bottom line is, of course, affected by many more variables than the number of packages and their complexity. We have negotiated with the Department of Health that we can present data analysis throughout the year, and we intend to capture quarterly data following the end of the year position and seek to negotiate further with the Department of Health in the autumn. I will of course keep members updated, but this is yet something else that will hopefully come up in the autumn statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's been much member and resident speculation, most recently in the local newspaper's letter column, of whether there was a done deal about the future frequency of household waste collections when we tender for a new contract from 2019. Whilst the details of the intended contract have not yet been agreed, I can announce tonight that the household collections arrangements post-2019 will remain weekly. Whilst many councils have extended the collection to fortnightly or even longer, we realise a great number of our residents wish to keep this weekly collection. In fact, when asked in our professionally procured market research exercise at the start of the year on what was important to residents, and specifically read, and I quote, maintaining the current service in its current form, i.e. weekly, that these were the exact words of the question, 92% said it was important. Less than half would be happy with fortnightly collections, even if food waste was collected separately and weekly. Over half said they would not mind paying more council tax, saying they need a weekly collection. We've not yet decided on the many other aspects of the collection arrangements. I plan to announce these very soon. Meanwhile, both this council and through RE3, our joint waste disposal arrangements with Bracknell Forest and Reading, we are actively moving forward on finding new products to recycle and new initiatives on communication with residents, all aimed at increasing our recycling rate towards the 50% target set nationally for 2020. I just would add your earlier comment, Mayor, about the Disability Sports Taste today, which I also attended, and really it was an uplifting experience. There were over 100 disabled members of our community there, including students from Addington School, and we had volunteers from 10 different sports to provide the experience, and our sports and leisure team organised the day superbly. I think they all should be thanked and congratulated, not least the 100 who clearly enjoyed the experience, as I did as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Rushmore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Planning, regeneration and communities. Planning, I can report the superb news that we've determined an average of 90% of all planning applications in time. This is against the national average of 68%, which is testament to the hard work and diligence of our planning department. The bad news is that appeals are at an all-time high, which is a massive drain on our council's resources. The good news is we successfully defended 70% of all appeals. I'd like to thank my deputy, Councillor Bowring, for his hard work with our local plan update. Thank you. Regeneration, this is full steam ahead in Wokingham town. And at Carnival Pool, we're nearing the completion of what has been our best kept secret, a state-of-the-art 500 space multi-storey car park. This will open mid-May and enable the commencement of the regeneration of Elmsfield and the Paddocks car park. Peach Place regeneration is also well underway, with the one-lane closure of Peach Street actually not working out too badly. 10 weeks to go. Communities, in my portfolio, this is all about standing shoulder to shoulder with our existing residents. Whoa, let's try that one. That's better. Communities, in my portfolio, this is all about standing shoulder to shoulder with our existing residents in the newly forming strategic development locations, the SDLs. We've worked very hard at making our regular forums engaging and worthwhile. And in this respect, I cannot thank the residents' associations, the towns and parish councils, enough for their critical friendship. Do you know, Mr. Mayor, we're truly getting there, and by sticking together, the pain will be worth the massive gain we will all experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Councillor Richards.
Mr. Mayor. I too will mention the Carnival Pool car park. This month sees further progress on the development of the Carnival Pool car park at Wellington Road in Elmsfield, and that car park is expected to open for use in May. Second part is civil parking enforcement, CPE. Civil parking enforcement is also progressing well and is due for formal submission to the Department of Transport by June, with an expected response soon after. And it is anticipated that CPE will commence across the Wokingham Borough during the last quarter of 2017. An additional benefit of our CPE decision is the digitalisation of our mapping system, which will enable online access to our maps and all the CPE regulations applicable across the borough. So we'll be able to see a map and whether you're allowed to park, how long, and that sort of thing. So we'll be able to look at the map and the CP regulations applicable across the borough, not just within our offices, but eventually for all our residents to see on their own computers and phones, without having to look at printed maps or text descriptions. Moving on to highways, members and residents will know of the substantial road workings occurring across the borough at present and for the foreseeable future. Some of it is new road building. Other works are road maintenance and repairs. Some of it is the installation and upgrading of utility services often within the highway itself, in order to cope with the growth of new housing and development that's happening. Yet another aspect is the utility companies having to do emergency repairs out there. We cannot expect, when we get an emergency, to delay the fixing of gas or electric or a water leak or electrical supply. All of this considerable work has a knock-on effect of trying to move around the borough when road workings are there, and jams are sometimes inevitable. I don't like traffic jams, I get stuck in them as well, because I live in the same place as most of you do. But the work is required and it simply cannot be put off until later. We regularly review the way that the highways tasks are done and related communications, and we will continue to try to make improvements in our practices and procedures in those areas. In the meantime, thank you for the forbearance and bear with us during this very busy period. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson-Swaddle.
Right. Okay, this is a report from Pauline. Our changes to introduce self-service in our larger libraries are underway. Each library takes about a week to refurbish and to install the new technology. Lower Early was the first, followed by Woodley, and finally Wokingham Library, where the work is due to be completed in time to reopen on Wednesday this week. In total, the improvement works, including self-service kiosks, are costing £300,000, comes from developers' funding allocated to libraries. And this innovation allows us to increase our cost efficiency and extend our library opening hours, including more opening at weekends. The first Joint Public Protection Partnership Board has been held in Wokingham. This board will guide the development of an integrated and more cost-effective service between the neighbouring councils of Wokingham, Bracknell and West Berkshire, and the service covers environmental health and trading standards. Procurement recently updated scrutiny on the progress of the new procurement regulations. These are now more transparent, streamlined, easy to follow for officers undertaking procurement activity, and these incorporate updated public procurement legislation, which includes the introduction of a light touch regime for social care service contracts, which were previously exempt, and increased support for small companies to take up public contract opportunities through greater advertising of opportunities and the removal of pre-qualification steps. We've already seen savings in contract costs of approximately £400,000 per year for tenders undertaken since these new regulations were adopted. And finally, although not strictly in this portfolio, Pauline was delighted to add her congratulations to the Berkshire Record Office, which provides the service to the 6 boroughs, for securing the UK Archive Service accreditation.
Thank you. Councillor Pollock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to cover controversy around interim and agency costs, which has been kicking about recently. We've seen recent coverage on costs incurred for the use of agency staff to cover key positions in the council. Wokingham Borough Council has over many years to respond to changes in government funding while meeting growing demand for services, particularly in our children's and adult social care services. We have adapted successfully, reducing costs and maintaining and even improving service delivery. Business process re-engineering, zero-based budgeting and transformation were among the approaches adopted by this administration since 2002 to bring down the cost of service delivery. We are now in the middle of the 21st Century Council programme, where the Council is looking to change how we deliver services to our residents and in the process to reduce the workforce by at least another 10%. This will save our residents approximately £4 million a year, and it is imperative that we take steps to mitigate the risk and cost and associated with redundancy. This Council has a strong track record of delivering change and avoiding high-cost redundancy or high redundancy costs. One of the ways we do this is by holding posts vacant during the time of change, by procuring temporary or interim staff to hold the reins in these areas. Once it is decided that the posts will remain in the structure following the 21st century changes, we will then look to fill the post at the right time on a permanent basis. We procure temporary staff at competitive rates and often receive refunds on the headline daily rate. Some posts prove hard to fill. We have advertised twice for our Assistant Director of Education and found no suitable candidates. And we've had abortive discussions with 2 of our neighbours about a shared service model. We are eager to share services when it makes sense for us, more so than many of our neighbours. So we will continue to act with prudence and with care to ensure that we continue to provide value for money for our residents.
Thank you. Any other executive members for stuff? Okay, thank you. Move on to statements from council-owned companies. I understand Councillor Topping, you wish to make a
If I may, please, Mr. Mayor, I'm making a joint presentation on behalf of both Wokingham Housing and Lofton Homes, and I'd like to sort of twist the rules slightly and have 4 or 5 minutes, please, to get through everything. Otherwise, you hear 2 things for 3 minutes.
Do you have a proposal for that? Councillor Baker? Seconder?
Oh, I have some friends somewhere.
All those in favour? Please proceed.
No, you didn't say those against. This is a joint report from both the Wokingham Housing and Lofton Homes. Development progress continues on our main sites and also on the small sites where building and preparation work has already started at Grovelands and 2 sites at Reading and Norton Roads. Our biggest frustration remains around the delays at Phoenix Avenue, where weather problems in January mean that phases 3, 4 and 5 will now not be ready until the end of August, while phases 1 and 2, which are weather tight, will be ready in May. The delays are a disappointment, but not unanticipated. The main impact remains the delays in new residents being able to move into their new homes. Negotiations with the contractor and employer's agent, that's the quantity surveyors acting on our behalf, should substantially cover any theoretical financial loss. Despite the delays, the project does remain within budget. This is a constricted site, and I reiterate that practical problems with access, supply and weather were anticipated. Foster's is still on time and to budget, and we still anticipate handover in the autumn. Progress at 52 Reading Road to build a replacement facility for young care leavers to replace Seaford Court is not only on track with planning permission granted in February, but we have already agreed terms with Life Build, with the contractors becoming responsible for the site this week. All of this urgency has been to secure the £300,000 of government grant awarded to the project by the Homes and Communities Agency. The build contract needs to be in place and demolition work started before the end of March, so we have complied. The scheme also needs to be completed by the end of March next year, so it's fingers crossed. This shows what can be done when there is an effective cooperation between all the interested departments of the Council, the Planning Department and good contract systems. I say well done to all concerned. Decisions have been reached as to the composition of the housing companies, partly to meet HCA rules and partly to simplify management, tax and other financial arrangements. Logden will answer directly to Holdco instead of being a subsidiary of WHL, and will hold and manage all properties where government grants are involved. There will be a new housing company wholly owned by the Council, that company to handle all social and affordable properties where government grants are not involved. WHL will continue to handle all development and construction related work. WHL will also deal with the open market sales projects and be involved in any private rented sector homes through a wholly owned subsidiary depending on the detail of the proposed housing white paper. On many of our other sites we are either progressing planning applications or tendering to build contracts. This will deliver our next pipeline schemes to house local people. There are also a number of other sites across the borough where we are working up detailed business cases to see whether they are viable to take forward to achieve the necessary board and council approvals before putting in planning applications. For the future, we are looking forward to the opportunity to start the horse ride development. Plans for which are just starting to come into public consultation, with the meeting with all the immediately affected residents taking place last Tuesday. This could be really exciting and show what local initiative can achieve. We continue to look for more sites and thank those councillors who come forward with ideas. So I will finish with my usual plea for more please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Park.
Thank you very much indeed. Many of you know that the Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead will be transferring their adult social care services to Oxford and taking a 45% shareholding in the company at the beginning of April. I'm looking forward to the opportunities which the merged business will provide for both councils, enabling them to continue to provide first-rate adult social care within the financial envelope and constraints predicted to be available over the next few years. I'm confident the LATCO model, the local authority trading company, developed by Wokingham Borough Council over the last 5.5 years, will provide a sound basis for the expanded company. And I look forward to the innovation which I believe will come from the combination of Wokingham Borough Council and the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maidenhead, which will provide a sound basis for other councils to join Optimus later, either as new shareholders transferring their adult social care services, or as commissioners of services, either in part or in whole, through service level agreements. I think this is an exciting prospect, and I look forward to it immensely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a question time. Councillor Holmes.
Thank you. The Executive Member for Finance informed the Council of the attendance of this year's budget engagement sessions with borough residents.
Sorry, I'm not sort of having moved from one to another until this time, so apologies. 18. 17, 18. Thank you, Tim. We do not have exact attendance figures because the budget engagement sessions would drop in and no sign-in was required from attendees. However, from a head count, we had approximately 120 people take part in the budget priority activity at 5 public sessions, and a further 50 approximately taking part in the Black History Month taster and performance evening. We also attended the Wokingham Borough Council Schools Fair, which approximately 300 young people took part in the budget priority activity, and some took part online. All the findings are on the Wokingham Borough Council website. Although we would, of course, always like greater participation, the numbers were considerably higher than last year, and many of those who took part considered it to be very useful and an engaging experience. We therefore intend to progress with these events, and we will do what we can to increase participation further.
Do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. What action did you take as a result of the feedback you received at these sessions?
As you know, this is not a formal consultation, it is a budget engagement session. We found the support for council services, the support for paying extra council tax for adult social care, which we have done, as you know, and the residents, the public, were very supportive of our caring services and the need to continue to partner.
Thank you. Councillor Horty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is for the Executive Member for Children's Services. The Royal Berkshire Borough Authority is working to ensure that schools and public buildings are safely equipped to deal with fires. Could you please confirm that all schools currently planned or built will be fitted with sprinkler systems?
Thank you, Councillor Wilson, for your question. In accordance with the policy that the Conservative Council agreed on the 22nd of November in 2012, the Council will undertake a risk assessment of the need to install fire sprinklers in all new buildings it constructs, particularly schools. It is anticipated that in accordance with the current Department for Education guidance, that's Building Bulletin 100 designed for fire safety in schools, that the assessment will lead to sprinklers being installed, as they have been at all recent new schools that have been built in this borough.
Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Ms. Supplementary.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Does the Executive Member for Finance agree that changes to the council tax discount for empty homes brings greater fairness to our council tax system?
Thanks, Chris, for that question. Local authorities have the flexibility to vary the amount of discount given on an empty and unfurnished property, and those properties which are empty and undergoing structural or major works. We have considered the existing or proposed discounts given by other Berkshire authorities and the significant savings which may result in removing the discount on a recommendation was accepted to remove all discounts on these types of properties. These changes bring the council in line with the existing or proposed discounts of other Berkshire authorities. Annual savings of £400,000, which will contribute towards the provision of council services, will result from these changes. It is felt that these changes will bring greater fairness as they will ensure that a consistent approach is taken across Berkshire. It will also ensure that within Wokingham, those who pay council tax pay an equal amount for similar banded properties, regardless of whether they are occupied or empty. This may result in more homes being brought into use with related community benefits.
Supplementary?
Yes, I do. Does the Executive Member also agree that these changes should encourage those with empty homes to let them out or sell them on, and thus help to provide homes for those struggling to get onto the property ladder, especially our residents, like myself, who have grown up across Wokingham and are now in their 20s and 30s?
Yes.
Thank you, Matt. My question actually is to the Executive Member for Resident Services. So let me try this. And it's regarding the 21st Century programme, 21st century council will see a transition to a greater use of self-service to make our residents' interaction with the council more efficient. What steps is the council taking to ensure that our residents who are less IT literate, especially the elderly, still have means of contacting us if they have a problem?
Thank you for that question. It's a very important issue. As you've highlighted, the project will enable many more interactions we have with residents to take place via our website at a time that's suitable to a resident. And this will enable residents to track the progress of their query or application at any time, not just when the council offices are open. However, we do of course recognise that not all of our residents will be able to interact with us in this way. So to assist in these cases, we will also develop assisted telephony services. These services have been successfully introduced recently to administer the Blue Badge service and have worked extremely well. This will enable our customer services staff to help the individual and provide support for those customers who are unable to access our online services, such as completing application forms for them. In addition, as many of our staff become more mobile and more visible within our communities, they will be able to offer support as required.
No.
Thank you. Councillor Borough.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is to the Executive Member for Highways and Transport. Please could you explain what part the Council played in the changes to the Reading buses, Orange routes and Woodley?
Certainly. The Orange 12, 13 and 14 Reading bus services are operated commercially. Therefore, the Council cannot specify the route, the fares, the timetable or the vehicles used. Wokingham Borough Council officers were informed of the commercial changes to the Orange 13 and 14 routes by Reading buses in March of 2016. Officers then made informal comments on the routes, which the company did consider, and as a result added Orange Service 12 as a late addition to the commercial offering. Officers informed Woodley members of the Reading buses commercial changes during a specific presentation arranged for this purpose in July 2016, in fact the 18th of July 2016.
You have a supplementary?
I do. Thank you for that information. On a wider view, what level of financial involvement do we have with travel-related concessions?
Thank you. There are several categories here. We spend £720,000 a year on public transport services. That is supported bus services. For example, the vehicles and the drivers, etc., just to enable the service to be set up. Of that 720, there is 220,000 in grants or Section 106 funding or developer contributions. So the council pays £500,000 a year out of its own funds on this category of setting up vehicles for routes. Almost £100,000 a year is spent supporting Keep Mobile and Regibus. Again, supporting the vehicles and the drivers for Keep Mobile and Regibus on service. In addition, another £900,000 a year is spent on concessionary subsidised fare payments. That's for bus passes, including senior bus passes and disabled passes. And that money is spent as a reimbursement to the public transport bus companies and to Keep Mobile and Regibus services. Just for extra information, there are currently 25,000 senior bus passes in circulation within Wokingham. £1.5 billion if you want to add it all together.
All right, my question is to the Executive Member for Education, Children's Services. Could you provide an update on the Multi-Academy Trust Working Group in light of the Government's confirmation it will no longer pursue compulsory academisation of all schools?
Thank you very much, Councillor Swallow, for your question. The working group has continued to meet, and both elected members and head teachers have come to similar views. The The evolving national context means that there is value in looking at local learning partnerships to provide a grouping of schools to support provide a grouping for school support, including mutual support consistent with long-standing national policy. At this stage, to set up a local authority multi-academy trust now looks a bit premature, but might well be appropriate at a later stage. And we're still on our radar in the working group. Head teachers have been pursuing this too. The member working group is also aware of and supports the exploration of similar arrangements in a London Borough authority. Officers from Camden, which is the same size as Wokingham, have met with working head teachers and officers this week. Heads have also been asked to confirm the current status of interest in the learning partnership, with most responding positively. The next stages will include the development of a worked-up learning partnership proposal, with any ideas of this including or excluding development in partnership with the teachers. We need to think of schools in the lead for this, with the learning partnership membership ultimately a matter of heads and for governors. The local authority is a valued partner, and we will take on and follow through in our enabling role.
No supplementary, I'll take that.
Thank you.
Councillor Lloyd, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could the leader set out the ways in which our residents will benefit from the changes from 21st Century Council?
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. The Century 21st Change Programme will transform the way the Council interacts with its residents and other customers, leading to more effective and efficient processing of queries, applications and casework. Services are being redesigned around the customer journey, thereby breaking through the traditional council structures, which can be confusing, time-consuming and complex. In the future, our residents will be able to find for themselves much more of the information they are looking for, more easily and readily on our website. They'll be able to track progress of their queries for themselves, including the ability to track requests online and receive updates via SMS or email. If residents need to speak to us, our customer services team will be building on the great improvements made over recent years. They will be able to answer many more of the queries and questions they receive. If the issue is more complex or involves, for instance, an application process, then the case will be held by a customer case owner, who will be the point of contact for residents. They will be able to progress the case and crucially keep the resident updated at each stage. Underpinning these changes will be an improved use of technology that connects systems across the organisation and enables our staff to work in much more efficient ways. Staff will be able to access residents' records rather than having to ask the resident the same questions each time they interact with us. Technology solutions will enable residents to interact with the council in a way that is flexible, easy to use and available at the time of their choosing. Intuitive and easy to use services will enhance the customer experience. It will reduce handoffs and create a customer-centric approach to service delivery. More of our staff will be mobile and visible in our communities. This will again help residents to get their queries resolved quickly and will also reap many benefits in terms of dealing with local issues such as highway defects, faster inspections and investigations of complaints. Once implemented, the Council will have a much greater focus on problem solving and customer responsiveness. This will be underpinned by the efficiencies gained through the improved use of technology